At Winter's Edge, Arlo told Leaf to gather all the clans. Tomorrow, they would make their war. Arlo went to bed, for once without despair. The king and the warden's forces together would make a last stand. They would sing of it forever. He wondered what sort of tale it would be. The clan's leaders listened to the warden and king's plan. They were nervous of this flying contraption, but their fear was as nothing compared to their iron will. They would take the mountain, the Sky Scorcher, and Count Kazak himself. Raising their weapons in salute, Arlo was glad to see his friends united, though the feeling was bittersweet. It seemed impossible all would return. Another runestone in place. Arlo was nervous. his paws itching for his weapons. Perhaps when the war was over, the smith could craft him new weapons for such adventures, in a matching pair. With the final rune in place, the ancient door opened into darkness. A faint wind rose and fell in his whiskers. Arlo laughed at his thought that something in here was breathing. The burial chamber revealed both tales were true. A treasure hoard, and guarding it was the ancient Draugr Harrot Bluefang. A fearsome warrior, now laid to rest. More importantly, Arlo had found his treasure. King Reggie's camp had creatures of every clan, armed and ready to fight. At its heart, Erdl waited. Arlo felt again the sense of safety at the turtle, and took it as a good omen. Erdl bellowed the order, and they felt the ground fall away. The ship lurched, as did the soldiers' stomachs. They held their nerve. Against the bats, they would need it. They landed with a thud. Arlo loved mountains, or had loved the thought of them in the great tales of far away. But this one he did not like at all. Its icy wind chilled more than his fur. They made hasty camp, readying themselves for the fight. Keeping busy stopped the frost from biting. began. Side by side, the king and the warden hacked a path through the baths to the walls of Cauldron Castle. The way was shut, barred and guarded. Leathery wings beat all around. If they could not open the gate, it would be all for nothing. Reggie sounded his horn. Out of the icy haze came Dennis, a barrel on his back, its fuse lit. The king had come prepared. The gate was shattered with a boom that echoed across the mountainside. It was a hammer blow to their enemies' hearts. Inside the castle, they found themselves in the chef's store. Before they could be disgusted at the contents, they had to take care of the chef. They moved in step, a flawless dance of blood and vengeance. Neither knew that their own blood united them, but perhaps, just then, they felt it. They stood together in fellowship, the clans of the Ratdom. Here they would make their final assault. Reggie raised his sword and issued the cry. Charge, army of the mighty Paw! Emerging through the mist at the base of Mount Cauldron, Arlo came upon the king, locked in combat. Count Kazakh and his undead Sky Scorcher. Arlo rushed to his side. But again, he was too late. The Sky Scorcher was gone, flying to the summit with the king in its claws. The despair took hold. Just then, he heard his friends fighting on. He could not abandon them. He stood tall. He would be their captain now, and they would follow, even under the shadow of Dark Wings. Battling the Darkwing Smith, but the Smith's mighty hammer soon overpowered her. Together, Arlo and Erica fought the Darkwing Smith. The fiery heat at the heart of the mountain burned hotter than any forge. Rita moved, clutching to life. Arlo ordered Erica to take her to camp. He would continue alone. His whiskers twitched and crackled. There was dark magic here. Sky Scorchers in cages, abominations made by some spell. Screeches of dying bats echoed through the corridors. He knew these arrows. It was Robin, determined to rescue his king. Slashing and arrows flying, they fought their way toward the summit. Would the king be alive when they got there? They entered the huge throne room. They finally set eyes on the foul, laughing figure of Count Kazakh, sat on his icy throne. Turtle kneeled exhausted before him. This pained the warden more than he could explain. Kazakh left his beast to fight them. He had a king to kill. Arlo and Robin fought with all they had, their hope driving them on. The beast fell, but there was no time to rest. Leaving Robin to tend to Bertle, Arlo headed to the summit to find Reggie. The icy wind bit at his fur as he emerged on the peak. He saw, silhouetted in the mist, Count Kazakh, and in his claws he held King Reggie, dangling over the edge. With a shriek of victory, the Count let go of the king and seemed to melt into the fatal mist. They flew into battle. The warden and the Count's weapons clashed, echoing across the mountain. Corrupted body fell heavy on the ground. Arlo rushed to the edge, calling for the king, but the only answer in the mist was the icy wind. The war was won, but Arlo could not feel the victory. He barely noticed his friends join him. The Fellowship bowed their heads in honor of their brave king. The tale of this war would be as much of loss as of winning. They returned to the Crimson Keep in near silence, each with their thoughts. There would be no victory parades. Arlo heard a commotion ahead. In the throne room were raised voices. Bertel stood in front of Reggie's throne, holding the crown, asking who should now carry this burden. Dennis barged forward to claim it. He was brother of the king. It was his by birth. Robin stepped forward and proclaimed that Arlo was rightfully king. Without him, there would be no kingdom to rule. He had proved himself on the peak. He was not alone. Leaders of the clans stepped forward and echoed their favor of the warden. Arlo objected. He had no claim here. Bertel slammed his staff into the floor to silence the rising voices. He had a secret to tell. Arlo's father was King Rattus. Bertel himself had delivered him as a child to the warden. He had a claim, if he was willing to take it. Arlo felt the truth of it, and the paw of destiny seemed to push him forward to take his place upon the throne. Bertel placed the crown upon his head. The weight of rule was his now. Dennis had been forgotten in the shouts of joy from the clans. He raised his blade and swore vengeance. It was his birthright, and he would reclaim it from this usurper. Arlo set aside the warden and became the king. A new dawn broke over the land, bright and clear. The king sensed it would not last. The promise of his half-brother would surely mean war would come again. But that, as they say, is a tale for another time.